Part 1. The Arrival, In-Depth Explanation, 700 words. The story begins with the entrance of Commander Eli Vance, a decorated human diplomat and former soldier who has dedicated the later part of his life to forging peace across the stars. Eli arrives on the alien world of Kiralik Prime, the capital of the powerful Soren Dominion, a race known for its arrogance, caste-based military culture, and disdain for what they call lesser species. Eli's arrival is symbolic. Comes aboard the Solace, a Terran diplomatic vessel known for its peaceful missions, and steps out alone, unarmed and unarmored. This act is a powerful message in itself. He represents Earth not through strength, but through trust, respect, and peaceful intent. His uniform bears a Terran emblem, an olive branch held in the claws of a steel eagle, dual symbol of peace and the strength to protect it. The alien city around him is quiet, but not welcoming. Thousands of Soren eyes track his every move. There's tension in the air. This is not a friendly reception. The Soren have never treated humans as equals, and Eli knows this. Still he walks with calm determination into the Grand Conclave, the Soren's political and ceremonial chamber. Inside, the atmosphere is as cold and sharp as a blade. The nobles of the Soren Dominion, most of them warriors or warlords in ornate armor, sit perched in seats arranged like a tribunal. There is no warmth, only scorn veiled behind polite formality. Eli begins his speech with dignity and humility. He offers partnership, mutual growth, and peace. Makes it clear, Earth is not trying to dominate, exploit, or threaten. Instead, humanity wants to establish trade routes, share scientific knowledge, and contribute to the stability of the galaxy. His tone is calm, his words rehearsed, measured, full of hope. But the conclave doesn't respond as he expected. Instead of applause or interest, he's met with quiet chuckles - mockery. High Lord Krivosh, the de facto military leader of the Soren, steps forward. He's a tall, heavily armored figure with gleaming mandibles and predatory eyes. Krivosh embodies everything the Dominion stands for: elitism, power, and disdain for diplomacy. He sneers at Eli's offer and mocks humanity for its naive idealism. Krivosh proclaims, "You come unguarded into the court of your betters, human, and you speak of peace. You insult us by assuming we would ever consider you equals." Eli stands his ground, remains calm, reaffirming Earth's desire to stand not above or below, but beside other species. But Krivosh's reply isn't verbal, it's violence. In one brutal act, Krivosh fires a plasma weapon directly into Eli's chest. There is no trial, no warning, just raw execution in front of the entire assembly. The bolt strikes him center. Mass and the unarmored diplomat drops to the floor, body convulsing, suit burning. The sound of the blast echoes through the chamber, followed by stunned gasps. The moment is jarring and horrifying. Eli came with peaceful intentions, and the Soren responded with murder. This was not war, it was a betrayal of diplomacy itself. The human delegation still aboard the Solace panics. Alarms wail. Commands are shouted, but none can reach Eli in time. His body lies lifeless on the pristine stone of the chamber floor, illuminated by the flickering flames of his burnt uniform. It's a tragic image, the peaceful emissary killed by the very people he tried to reason with. The Soren leadership quickly begins crafting a narrative. They prepare to send out falsified footage and propaganda, claiming Eli was armed or that he made a threatening move. But they underestimate human preparation, unknown to the Dominion. Every human ambassador is equipped with a neural recorder, a black box embedded in the skull that records visual, audio, and biological data in real time and transmits it back to Earth automatically. The truth, the complete and unaltered footage of the speech, the laughter, and the unprovoked attack is already being received by Terran command centers before Eli's heart stops. And so ends the first act. A man comes with open hands and a message of unity, only to be betrayed and left for dead. But that betrayal will not fade quietly. What the Soren Dominion doesn't realize is that humanity's silence in the days that follow is not weakness, is the calm before a storm born from fury, loss, and principle. Part 2. The Silence Before the Storm, In-Depth Explanation. 700 words following the shocking and public execution of Commander Eli Vance in the Sorin Dominion's Grand Conclave. The galaxy reacts with stunned disbelief. Assassination wasn't hidden, it was seen by all the alien dignitaries present. But the Sorin leadership immediately begins a campaign of misinformation to justify their actions. The Dominion broadcasts an altered version of the event, edited to make it appear as if Eli had threatened the court or attempted to smuggle in a weapon. Their story claims they acted in self-defense against a deceptive, aggressive human agent. However, this manipulation is quickly and fatally undermined. What the Sorin didn't know, or perhaps arrogantly dismissed, was that Eli Vance's body had a neural implant recorder, standard equipment for Terran diplomats. It recorded the truth in full clarity: his peaceful words, his calm demeanor, the cruel laughter, and the unprovoked plasma bolt to the chest. This data had already been transmitted live to Earth moments before his heart stopped. Now humanity had proof not just of murder, but of a blatant rejection of peace. And yet, Earth said nothing. No diplomatic condemnation, no threats. For 6 standard days, humanity remained eerily silent. This silence was more deafening than any declaration of war. It wasn't the sound of hesitation, it was the stillness of something coiling, preparing, calculating. The rest of the galaxy watched uneasily. Some wondered if Earth was afraid. Others suspected a retaliation was brewing. The Sorin Dominion, overconfident and politically insulated, mocked the silence. To them, it meant victory. They had eliminated a naive ape who dared speak as an equal in their halls. And Earth had been cowed into inaction. But those familiar with human history, those who had studied Earth's many wars, this relentless comebacks in its terrifying unity and grief, felt something else entirely: fear. And then, on the 7th day, the silence broke. A new vessel entered the system. It was not the Solace, nor any recognizable Terran diplomatic ship. This one was different, colossal, jagged, and silent. The Retributor, a mobile fortress more than a kilometer long, forged with a black alloy that drank in starlight. Its hull was lined with unmarked panels, hidden weapon systems, and crimson trim that pulsed like the heartbeat of something living. The Retributor was not part of any known fleet. It had no official designation in any public Terran naval database. That made its sudden appearance over Cyrillic Prime all the more unsettling. No declaration came with its arrival. No transmission, no demands, just one shuttle deployed from its underbelly. It's ascending like a sword from the heavens as the shuttle touched down on the palace landing platform. The atmosphere turned to ice. From it stepped Eli Vance alive. Sort of his return shocked even the most informed observers. The Sorin were certain he had died. Plasma at that range should have incinerated most of his torso. But humanity had pulled him back, rebuilt him, not just to survive, but to endure. Earth had not resurrected a diplomat. They had forged a weapon. Eli Vance was now part human, part machine. Skeletal structure had been reinforced with alloy and carbon fiber. His eyes glowed faintly with artificial enhancement. His movements were perfectly balanced, yet unnervingly silent. He wore no ambassador's robes, only dark combat armor lined with ancient Terran symbols. In one hand, he carried a massive blade, a weapon that pulsed with energy. In the other, the burnt remnant of the uniform he had worn when he first came in peace. Eli said nothing to the guards awaiting him. Didn't need to. The Dominion's elite security forces scrambled into position, their weapons raised. The chamber that once hosted his assassination would now host his return, but this time, balance had shifted. The Sorin nobles inside the Grand Conclave stared in disbelief as he entered. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Some called it a trick. Some said it was a clone, a bluff. But Krivosh, the very one who had pulled the trigger, recognized the truth. This was the man he had tried to kill, and this was not a peacekeeper anymore. What had returned to them was the embodiment of humanity's buried instinct, the same one that had survived Earth's darkest wars and united continents, a spirit tempered in peace, but unforgiving in betrayal. This was the moment the galaxy realized Earth had never been silent. It had been listening, preparing, forging. The storm had arrived, not with bluster, but with intention. And at its center stood Eli Vance reborn, in steel and purpose. Part 3. Bloodied Steel. In-depth explanation, 700 words. This part marks a drastic tonal and narrative shift from diplomacy and silence to righteous fury and calculated vengeance. Eli Vance. Once a peaceful emissary, now returns transformed. The same man who had arrived unarmed with an olive branch has been reborn as something else. Part man, part weapon, and entirely focused. His reappearance on Kirillek Prime is not only a miracle, but a statement of defiance. The Soren believed they had killed him, and with him, extinguished Earth's desire for peace. But they underestimated both Terran resolve and medical science. Eli had been saved by the slimmest of margins. His vitals, though failing, were stabilized aboard the Solace long enough to return to Earth. Their Terran science, cybernetics, and trauma repair teams fused their most advanced knowledge to rebuild him. But this wasn't just about saving a life, it was a political resurrection. Vance was no longer a diplomat. It was a living consequence. His body is now enhanced with cybernetic components. Beneath his skin lies reactive armor and synthetic muscle. His bones have been reinforced with advanced alloys, and his heart replaced with a microfusion core capable of sustaining him indefinitely. His eyes, once human, are now optical sensors that read body heat, movement, and structural weakness. He is a walking symbol of what happens when you strike at Earth's goodwill. The Soren court, once so proud and smug, is taken aback as Eli enters the Grand Conclave again, this time, not with words, but with a blade. That blade is no ceremonial sword. It's a neutronium, edge Martian forged mono-weapon. An artifact of ancient Terran warfare designed to cut through energy shields and heavy armor alike. Every step he takes is deliberate. Every breath, even if artificial, hums with restrained fury. The Dominion's guards surround Himalet warriors bred for speed and strength. But they were trained for battles against conventional threats. Were not prepared for Eli. He moves with terrifying precision. His cybernetics and combat training turn him into a blur of motion. Before he's upon them, plasma blades clatter to the floor as Eli's sword carves through exosuits like paper. There's no pause, no wasted motion. Each strike is surgically efficient, not fueled by rage, but driven by purpose. The Soren nobles scream and scatter. Krivish, the one who pulled the trigger days ago, watches in horror as his guards fall. He commands more troops in desperation, but it's too late. Every warrior between Eli and the throne falls in seconds, and through it all, Eli doesn't speak. His silence is chilling. It mirrors the 6 days of quiet Earth held after his death. Now, the silence has taken form, and it is unstoppable. Eventually, only Krivosh remains. The once proud warlord tries to flee, stripped of his confidence, shouting orders no one obeys. He scrambles for escape, forgetting that Eli was rebuilt to hunt and endure. Krivosh doesn't make it far. Eli intercepts him, seizing him by the throat. It is in this moment that the entire galaxy, watching the live broadcast through captured Soren networks, understands the truth. This was not war. This was judgment. Eli could have killed him instantly. But instead, he drags Krivosh back into the throne room and forces the surviving members of the Dominion's court to watch as the executioner becomes the teacher. Eli doesn't strike in fury, he delivers justice. With the same calm he once used in his peace offer, he drops Krivish's body at the base of the throne. The blade he used glows faintly from the heat of battle. His armor is scorched, his synthetic skin cut in places, but he stands tall, towering figure of vengeance earned. This entire event is broadcast not by Earth, but by the Soren Dominion's own systems. Their attempt to control the narrative now backfires spectacularly. Billions across the galaxy witness the death of the Sorens, pridened the rise of a new kind of Terran. Diplomacy, this part of the story underscores the duality of humanity, a people of peace but also forged by conflict. They offered diplomacy. They honored the rules. But once betrayed, they did not respond with equal violence. they responded with inevitable, total, and uncompromising precision. Eli's transformation from peacekeeper to punisher becomes a symbol of what it means to awaken the sleeping lion. Earth didn't just retaliate, it demonstrated that mercy is a choice, not a weakness. Part 4. The message sent, in-depth explanation, 700 words, Part 4 shifts. Focus from Eli's vengeance to its impact on the galaxy at large. The Soren Dominion's defeat in its own throne room is no longer just a military embarrassment. It becomes a galactic turning point, one that upends power structures, changes perceptions of humanity, and introduces a new diplomatic paradigm rooted in consequences. Eli Vance, now standing over the blood-soaked floor of the Grand Conclave, surrounded by the broken bodies of the Soren elite, does not gloat. He does not roar triumphantly. He simply stands amidst the silence of the aftermath, surrounded by terrified nobles and warriors who once laughed at him. His armor is dented, his cybernetic systems exposed in places, but he is unshaken, a sentinel of purpose. And then he speaks. The moment is broadcast through the Soren Dominion's own communication infrastructure, which Eli deliberately commandeered. He could have shut it down or used it to spread threats, but instead, he turns it into a stage for clarity. Billions across the galaxy, from merchant planets to political strongholds, watch their screens go dark for a moment. Then blink too. Life with a single feed, a bloodied throne room, and one human at its center. Eli's voice is calm, almost soft in eerie contrast to the carnage behind him. "This is not a declaration of war," he begins. "This is a declaration of consequence." He makes no threats. He issues no ultimatums. What he offers is a truth unvarnished and final. Earth is still open to peace, still values cooperation, and still seeks progress across species. But that offer is not unconditional. It will never be vulnerable again. As he speaks, he drops Krivish's ceremonial cresta, once proud symbol of Soren military dominance, onto the marble floor and crushes it beneath his boot. The image is immediately seared into the collective memory of the galaxy. It is no mere act of defiance. It is the visual death of untouchable tyranny. Then the feed cuts. There is no follow-up message. No transmission from Earth, no marching armies or orbital fleets. Just the silence of a job completed and a statement delivered. The reaction from the galaxy is immediate and profound. The Soren Dominion, once feared for its brutal enforcement and dominance of its region, begins to fracture. Member worlds, once bound by fear and tradition, begin severing ties. Their rationale is not born of moral outrage, but self-preservation. If Earth can infiltrate the Dominion's capital and eliminate its top leaders in one stroke, what chance? Do smaller systems have many of these defectors reach out to Earth quietly? What was once disdain for the primitive Terrans transforms rapidly into careful respect, even admiration. Alien cultures that once rolled their eyes at human diplomacy now scramble to review old treaties, open trade channels, or sign security pacts out of fear of war. But fear of being ignored, because Eli's message wasn't just for the Dominion. It was a message to all species, councils, and empires. Humanity will not be exploited. Not again. This changes the diplomatic dynamics of the galaxy entirely. Before, Earth was seen as the talking species, rational, slow to anger, always preferring words over weapons. Now, they are viewed as something far more dangerous and balanced, a species capable of wielding terrifying force. But only when absolutely necessary. In many ways, human diplomacy becomes more effective after the incident. Where once ambassadors had to fight to be heard, now they're offered immediate seats at the table. Where once humans were asked to prove themselves, now their presence alone demands attention. And for the Terran Republic itself, this is a quiet victory. They do not celebrate publicly, nor do they issue propaganda. There are no parades for Eli. No chest beating from officials. Earth simply moves forward, watchful, wiser, or more prepared than ever to enforce peace through strength. Meanwhile, Eli Vance's image begins to appear across alien networks, as graffiti on walls, as stylized. murals, even as 3D holograms and protests, marches against other oppressive regimes. His story becomes more than a diplomatic event. It becomes a myth, a warning, and a lesson to betray Earth's offer of peace is to court irreversible consequences. This part of the story reveals that Earth's greatest weapon isn't its fleet, its tech, or its warriors. It is its patience, its ability to act with restraint until pushed to far end when that limit is crossed. Its retaliation is not wild or savage, but precise, overwhelming, and unforgettable. Part 5. A different kind of peace. In-depth explanation, 700 words in the final part of the story. We shift away from violence and vengeance and enter the era after retribution, a moment when the galaxy begins to reflect on what just happened, and more importantly, on what it means for the future. While Part 3 and 4 focused on Eli's return and the ripple of fear and respect it created, Part 5 explores how those ripples reshape the galactic order and how Eli, Earth, and the galaxy itself redefine peace. The return of Eli Vance returns to Earth, not as a hero in the traditional sense, but as something quieter and, in some ways, heavier. He carries the weight of what was lost, not just his own life in its original form, but the idealistic version of peace he once believed was universal. He doesn't walk through cheering crowds or flashbulbs. There are no banners. The people of Earth, watching through their screens, understand the gravity of what he became. They don't celebrate it. Instead, there's a collective pause, kind of mourning for the man who once arrived with open hands. Though rebuilt in body, Eli's soul remains wounded. He was never meant to be a weapon, but in the galaxy Earth now occupies, he had to become one. And in doing so, he created a moment of clarity that words never could. In his private quarters, Eli keeps two things displayed: the scorched olive branch insignia from his original diplomatic uniform, the blade he wielded in the conclave. Together, they form a symbol that comes to define a new age of Terran diplomacy, not one of conquest, but of earned respect. Peace through consequence following the broadcast of the conclave incident and Eli's message. A new galactic reality begins to form. The Soran Dominion, once viewed as untouchable, begins to collapse from within. Former member species, emboldened by Earth's retaliation, defect or rebel. The elite castes are dismantled. The regime no longer commands fear, and without fear, it has no power, ironically. Eli's violence achieves what years of Terran diplomacy could not: a reshaping of the galactic order. Now, when Earth speaks, others listen. Not because humanity demands obedience, but because they've demonstrated that their silence is not weakness. It's patience. Where once Terran ambassadors had to prove their worth or justify their presence, now they are treated as first among equals in diplomatic councils. Earth's reputation as the reasonable species hasn't been erased, it's been reforged. Tempered by action, the message was never submit to Earth. It was, do not mistake our mercy for passivity. We are kind, till forced not to be. This attitude becomes the backbone of a new diplomatic philosophy known as measured deterrence, doctrine based on clarity of boundaries and swift, targeted response to violations. Spreads far beyond Earth. Other species begin adopting similar codes, leading to an unprecedented era of stability. Eli Vance, however, retreats from public life. He doesn't take a government role. He refuses medals. He doesn't give interviews. He spends his time mentoring a new generation of Terran diplomats, not to teach them how to fight, but to remind them why the fight should never be the first. Answer. His personal motto becomes a guiding principle in Terran education. Peace isn't something you hope others grant you, it's something you guard, so others learn not to take it for granted. Legacy across the galaxy, Eli becomes both a legend and a lesson. Statues appear not of him holding a weapon, but with one hand open and the other gripping a sheathed sword. That image travels far, used in everything from protest movements on oppressed worlds to Terran university lecture slides. Even species that once mocked humans begin quoting his message. Peace treaties are signed with his name invoked as a precedent. Galactic warlords who once threatened smaller species now think twice, knowing what humanity did in response to a single betrayal. But Earth doesn't exploit this fame. The Terran Republic uses its newfound influence to broker a string of peace deals, out pushing for trade, science exchanges, and de-escalation. The reputation they now wield becomes a force for stability. It's not because they demand it, but because the galaxy now believes them capable of enforcing it.